And live between the slicks once again on the Monday Morning Racer platform. Also, welcome the Competition Plus platform as well on Facebook. And we're going to take a dive into the 2025 schedule for NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing. That dropped today, and we're going to take a look at it, go through it, give our thoughts and opinion on the 2025 NHRA schedule right here on Between the Slicks. This is presented by McKinney Corp. Hello, I'm Lee Kraft, host of the Monday Morning Racer platform and this show Between the Slicks. Very quickly, before we dive in, you can see on the Monday Morning Racer platform the show we had yesterday with Krista Baldwin, a great, insightful conversation. You can also see the rounds of elimination for Holly EFI Factory X from the latest NHRA national event there at Norwalk, Ohio, as well as Top Alcohol Funny Car competition from the Summit Racing Equipment Nationals. Concerning the schedule and its release, I'm not going to be the only one having the conversation. I want you to be a part of the conversation, diving into the comments section right here on Between the Slicks as you hit the like button and the share button. But we're also going to have Mr. Dujanay Bland, star of The Not Bland Show, conversing along with us concerning the 2025 NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series schedule. It's not Power Hour, but we've got a powerful topic in the 2025 schedule to talk about, Dujanay.
Absolutely. I love this. And I love the fact that you decided to put this together. The NFL does it all the time. They, have these big time schedule release, 4 and 5 hour shows. This is going to be fun.
I wish I had known that they were going to drop it at 10 a.m. this morning. I would have done some more planning and have like the drop and then it's released and take the images and put it together. But I think this is going to work out just as good as we talk about the schedule. Speaking of the schedule, here is the overview. We're going to walk through it individually, give you some more information, but the 2025 national event schedule for the NHRA is as you see on the screen. Dujanay, when I look at this schedule, I've got to say it is a good schedule, but I think it is also the safe schedule, which also equates to, in my mind, a boring schedule.
Yeah, much of the same here. And when I look at it, well, one thing that does stand out to me is that Flying H is not on this schedule.
Right. Flying H is not on this schedule. It was touted to be this national event level holding track, and maybe it's just not there yet. They're still working on the tower. They're still working on that facility in many ways. I get this from competitors that have been there and competitors that have been there with very fast and very quick cars. Beautiful facility, kind of a weird layout for a drag strip. And when you look at the photos, I kind of see that. Yeah. I think they still got to work out where they're going to hold everything for an NHRA national event, because in having some divisional and regional events already, they're starting to be able to observe and go, okay, we need to make these tweaks and these changes. And that just does not happen overnight. By the way, with Flying H, there was a post made of a serious safety oversight, and you could do some diving on social media and find what happened. But it's something that, I don't want that track holding a national event quite yet. They still got some kinks to work out. Not trying to knock Flying H. Glad it's built, glad it's there. It's a fine facility, but it is a brand new facility. It's a brand new group at that track. They got to work the kinks out.
Yeah, and it's good to kind of realize where you're at and not try to push this thing too soon. I know it would be great for them to have a national event, but realizing where you're at, realizing there's work that needs to be done. I think it's cool of them, allow them to get seasoned a little bit, because it's a spectacle when the national event comes to your town, and you really have to have the layout. You have to have the the ingress and egress of this whole thing with fans and racers coming in. Lots of juggle there, and
Yes.
it's good to give yourself some time, get everything nice and seasoned, and then we can bring in a national event.
Speaking of bringing in national events in 2025, the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series will begin at the Gator Nationals. It will be the 56th annual NHRA Gator Nationals down there at Gainesville, Florida. One of the crown jewels of the sport. It is a must win, and I feel that it is a great place to start the NHRA Drag Racing Professional Series
I
for
stand by that.
editors, teams, and fans.
Yes, I stand by that. It's. I was just watching the little Shirley documentary and seeing her race there. It's just something about that place. So much going on. It makes the season a big deal to me. It's just so much history, and when they come out to play, and they play hard there. So yeah, great way to start off the season.
I think it is a great way to start off the season. And for those that are traditionalists, they're going to say, whoa, the Winter Nationals.
Right.
That is supposed to start the season. But if you are truly a traditionalist and you understand the history of drag racing, holding the first event of an NHRA season, well, it fits being in Florida, because the first Winter Nationals was a joint venture with Wally Parks and Bill France Sr., NASCAR and NHRA, just north of Daytona, around Daytona Speed Weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if we did that again?
I think it would be neat. I think it would be neat if it was all in conjunction.
Too.
I would love to see drag racing on pit road or the backstretch at Daytona International Speedway. I would love to see that happen one day in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah. It would be awesome.
I think it would be. But this is a great place to start the season. The teams wanted, I think they wanted this. They are getting this again. It makes sense. And Dugenais, the 20 event schedule is a happy place for the teams. Everything I hear, I routinely hear they want 18 to 20 events, and they don't really want to go beyond that.
I don't blame them. I do think this is a really nice spot. It's great for everyone. It allows people to make more attempts to come out, especially your smaller teams. When you start getting above that, you're going to find some races where they're going to be those guys that you need. We call them the smaller teams. We call them the little guys, but you're going to lose a lot of those players if you win any higher than that, just because of budget reasons. And I think this is a very nice sweet spot that enables everybody who wants to participate, they can.
The second race of the year in 2025 will be the Arizona Nationals at the now rebranded back to what it was, Firebird Motorsports Park, just outside of Phoenix, Arizona. This is a facility that I think everyone should make the trek out to enjoy a drag race. And it is a facility that tends to give us some interesting moments very early in the year. So glad that we are back at this track. We did not lose this track, though we thought we're going to lose it to an interstate highway system.
Yeah, it was a very nice surprise. It seemed like it was all but done, and it was able to be saved, and that's important. What's also cool is right after the Gator Nationals, there'll be that week off, and then they'll get out here to Arizona and put the tires to the racetrack.
And it is the 40th annual NHRA Arizona Nationals. 40 years of NHRA drag racing out there in the desert.
Yeah, that's, it's wild to think of some of these places of how long the NHRA has been going there. It
is wild for how long they have been having NHRA drag racing. This year we have the nameplate, the national event itself, 70 years, U.S. Nationals. Now, it has been held at other facilities beyond it being at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, though it has had majority of its events held there at that facility. Overall, 70 years of the U.S. Nationals. Cannot wait to look forward to it later on this year.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. That it should be a spectacle as well. 70 years, you got to do it big.
For sure. And then we come to the third race of the year, and so far you're noticing that the 2025 schedule looks very similar, frankly, carbon copy of the 2024 schedule. And the third race of the year is the Lucas Oil Winter Nationals at In-N-Out Burger Pomona Drag Strip. Now, Dugenais, you have looked at the dates. I've got the dates up March 27th through the 30th. Do we make it into winter, actually, for the 65th annual Lucas Oil NHRA Winter Nationals?
Anything's possible these days. I'm going to go with that you get a little bit of both. It'll be a split deal there. There'll be a little coolness to it. There might be a little heat at some point. I think you'll have split weather there. This is a back-to-back race coming off the Arizona Nationals and leading into another week off. But this makes 3 races in the month of March. This year in 2024, we only had 2 races in the month of March.
So looking at sources, Google, it states that winter is Saturday, December 21st, 2024 through Thursday, March 20th, 2025. So the Winter Nationals does miss out on winter technically for a week. And I will say, I'm a stickler on this. I flip Pomona and Phoenix, and let's have the Winter Nationals in winter. I get it. It may be later in winter. We may not have the San Gabriel fully snow covered and capped, but let's get it in winter.
Yeah, I agree. If we're going to keep the Winter Nationals name, it needs to be in the winter time. So, yeah, I agree with that. Flip it if you're going to keep the name. Otherwise, the name should change.
Right. Let's do something different. And I don't think that should happen because the Winter Nationals is a very long-running, historic name as a national event, drag racing meet at the world's longest continuous operating drag strip, period. And that is the In-N-Out Burger Pomona drag strip there at the Fairplex in Pomona, California. Continuing, we look now at the 5th race of the year, the 25th, the 25th. That's hard to believe I'm saying the 25th annual NHRA 4-Wide Nationals.
That is wild. It seems like just yesterday we started going 4-wide. That is wild. 25.
Has it been that long, or has this event been around that long and it has just grown into being 4-wide? Well, I got to really dive to make sure. It seems
I think that is the case because they not too long ago made this track 4-wide, and they do 2 races here. So now just the first race is just a 4-wide race. That's the only thing that's really changed.
Well, you know, what's interesting as we look ahead in the schedule, they have the second date at Las Vegas also as the 25th annual Nevada National. Something's going on there.
Yeah.
But yes, I think this has been worked into as a 4-wide total event. 25 years total racing at the Strip at Las Vegas is, I think, how we can view this. But the 4-wide Nationals, the first 4-wide race of the year, taking place once again at the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Yeah, this is one I think you have to get out and see, especially at Las Vegas. That has to be a bucket list one for the 4-wide. I've seen the one in Charlotte. That would be awesome to be able to see that in Vegas. And, as usual, they have a week off after this race leading into the next one.
And that next one, again, a 4-wide event on the East Coast. The 4-wide nationals taking place at Z-Max Dragway. And by the way, let me also take the time. For example, we've got Circle K 4-wide nationals here as the photo. Some of that may change. Do not take the title sponsor of the event and connect it with the event, because that may not be the case. If you look at the NHRA schedule on NHRA.com, it does not have Circle K associated with the event in Charlotte. Right. Though we have long-standing sponsors with some of these events, don't take it necessarily as it will be the Circle K 4-wide nationals next year. It may be another title sponsor. Nonetheless, we're going 4-wide again on the East Coast at Z-Max.
Yeah, and this is the first race back for the Pro Stock motorcycles as well. I don't really like that. I don't like how they come out in Gainesville and then there's a 3-week lull before they come back out again. I think that's part of the reason why, especially this year, with so many people having new equipment that didn't get the test before Gainesville, it really showed for the first 2 races. Other than Gage, who, running what he's brung before from last year, it's just it doesn't allow people to get into a rhythm. And I think that's a little bit too long of a wait for Pro Stock.
I agree. I would like to see the bikes run at least one of those Western races in the early Southwest, early Western tour, if you will, that is there in the NHRA schedule early in the season. If it's Pomona, if it's Phoenix, if it's the 4-wide and they do 4-wides 2 times with the bikes, whatever it is, I would like to see them make a trip out early, maybe give them a little bit more space than the Nitro teams and the Door Slammer teams, but I would like to see them not have quite the gap that they have in the schedule right now from Gainesville, picking back up on the East Coast there at the 4-wide nationals at Z-Max Dragway. And with you mentioning the Pro Stock motorcycle camp, let me also say to everyone out there, the NHRA releases first the 2025, in this case, schedule for the Mission Foods series. So you are seeing the national event tour, and you can go ahead and assume that this is the schedule for Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock.
Yes.
But we will wait for a full schedule on other classes, such as Johnson's Horsepower Garage, Mount Motor Pro Stock, Holly EFI Factory X, FlexJet Factory Stock Showdown.
Yeah.
Those classes will have schedules come out later and bolster the information of what we've got now with the 2025 National Event Tour for the NHRA.
Yeah, and this 4-wide nationals is the first race of the second quarter of the regular season. So again, it kind of helps out. It sucks that they only have 1 race in the first quarter of that regular season. Pro Stock motorcycle is, but this begins your second quarter of your regular season, and right after this race, they're off for 2 weeks.
Well, getting that quarter in and getting a break. And by the way, it's the 15th annual NHRA 4-wide nationals at Z-Max. Folks, 4-wide's not going anywhere. I don't think it needs to expand in the sport.
No.
But I also don't want it to go away.
No.
So spare me.
Yeah.
Spare me.
Please.
If you are in the comment section and you type in, I hate the 4-wides, I'm blocking you.
And you probably haven't been. You probably haven't been. There's no way you've been. So many
times, people who say they hate the 4-wides, they have not been. Look, I love traditional drag racing over the 4-wides, but when you do see and experience the 4-wides, you're like, hey, this is cool. I can take this for once, 2 times a year. I don't want it all the time.
No.
And I will also say, I don't feel like it really shortens the race overall that much when you have so many categories
Yes.
at the event. Stay in the stands and actually enjoy something else for once, not just nitro.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't. You think it does, but it really doesn't.
No.
But it does give you an opportunity to, like, because things go so fast, you get an opportunity to see other things that are out there on the racetrack, and it's not much of a rush. And the sensory overload, like the first time 4 nitro cars went down, it was just like, wow.
Right.
Pro stock cars going down. Wow. It's if you haven't been, you need to go. It is wow. You can't even put it into words, really. That's
right.
That's how unique it is.
Right. I agree. And I will say, when you get that shot of like 4 funny cars all in a line, it is a pretty shot. It is a pretty shot. So I'm glad we've got it 2 times. I don't want it any more than that. I would like to see a 4 wide in the playoffs. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. I'd like to see that. Let's continue. The 2025 NHRA Mission Food schedule. We go back, and I'm glad we're going back.
Amen.
It's been announced that there is a long-term contract with Route 66 Raceway, the Route 66 Nationals, and it's already got a title sponsor. It's going to be the 25th annual Gerber Collision and Glass Route 66 NHRA Nationals, presented by Peak Performance.
Yeah, this is a historical track, one of the best, I believe, out there. I'm really, really happy that this continues. It's a track that I need to get to. That stadium-like feel right there. The tower, the fact that it has, they take care of the people on top of the tower with that nice canopy. It's just, man, it's a track that deserves to have an event like this. And I'm glad they were able to work this out and have a multi-year deal here. And hopefully we can continue to add on to that as the years go on.
I believe so. I think we are going to see this event continue to grow, and it's going to continue to gain steam. And I think we're going to see it get back to where it was. Many people would say, well, the other side isn't full. And I've got to say to that, experiencing Chicago for the first time this year, there was a good crowd there. I know the other side wasn't full, but that doesn't mean there was not a good crowd. There was a good crowd. Would I love to see the other side full? Yes. But for whatever reason, we're not there yet. Here's the net positive. We're back in that market at a track that was designed to hold national events for the NHRA. We're back racing there. How is that a negative?
Right.
I understand the other side's not full, but we're there in the first place when we weren't there for a few years.
Yeah.
Let's get over the side not being full and be happy that we've got an event back there.
Yeah. It amazes me because basically being able to do this again enables for this track to stay alive, to be honest with you. And I'll give those individuals who run that track, some credit. They are thinking outside of the box. Like we've had so many, you've had them on your show here between the slicks and the power hour who are running tracks and understanding that you need to evolve in this day and age. And those types of things have enabled this track to be able to still be here. And it's nice that we're able to go here and it's going to be here for a while.
I'm glad that's going to be here for a while. Again, I hope it continues to grow. I hope we get back to a day where that other side is open and you have tickets being sold there and we can see it be full on both sides. It's very simple. Drag racing fans, you've got to support the events that are near you. Yeah. So that Chicago market, even Indy, you're only like 2.5 hours away. That area, that market, you've got to go support this event. Stop complaining on the internet, buy a ticket and go to a race.
Yeah. Got to put it into action if you're going to gripe. You gotta be a part of the reason why. So let's be a part of the reason why and not worry about the why not.
Yes. And by the way, I said go purchase a ticket. And for anyone that's like, oh, well, the tickets are so expensive. I don't know what the tickets cost at Chicago. Being a member of the media, I have my hard card. I've got my parking pass. I don't have to pay to get into an event. But I did look at tickets for NASCAR Cup on Sunday at Iowa. I was going to be in the area, like only 2 hours down the road after a Funny Car Chaos event at Cordova, Illinois, at Cordova Dragway. I'm like, hey, I'll go check out a NASCAR race, a cup race. Haven't been to one in many, many years. Nosebleed was $160 on Sunday for a cup race. There is no $160 general admission ticket anywhere on the NHRA Mission Foods tour.
Not even a reserve ticket for that.
I don't think a reserve. I don't think reserve tickets touch that anywhere.
Maybe 60, 65, but that depending on the event too.
It depends on the event. They're not the same everywhere. And I understand also for NASCAR, it depends on the event. Don't misunderstand me.
Right.
But Iowa, I know it was an inaugural race, but $160 was the cheapest I could find, and it was nosebleed. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. Monday morning, Drag Racing Mayhem says Virginia was $85 for reserve seats for Saturday for 3 sessions. Sunday was $70 for the same seats.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So, like, let's just calm down about ticket prices. Look, I know Pomona's expensive when you buy your ticket and then you pay for parking, but $160 for Iowa.
Yeah.
Iowa.
Ain't even paid for a parking pass yet.
Wow. Okay, let's move on. Beyond the Route 66 Nationals, going to this great little drag strip in the Northeast, the New England Nationals. They're at Epping, New Hampshire. I really like this little drag strip. I believe this should be the throwback race for the NHRA because it is such a throwback facility. You can see those little graining, that certainly old school tower that they have at Epping, New Hampshire. Such a neat venue. So cool that the NHRA does go here. Also, Dugenais, if the NHRA can do it here, they can do it at a lot of other facilities as well.
I agree. This is the house of the Hall of Famer, Brian Loans. Yeah, I love this place. This is like take you back to like late 80s, 90s, like stuff here. It is such an intimate place. I love it. And I do agree with you. This should be a throwback race. Like this is a race where you bring out some of your throwback like body styles, configurations, show up and show out a little bit. I think it would be pretty awesome to see that, different versions of old school bodies. That would be pretty cool.
I like it. They do a good job at New England bringing out some nostalgia funny cars and other rides. I just would love to see the professional teams and the NHRA really lean into it and it be the dedicated throwback race for the NHRA. The Southern 500, Darlington example. Darlington has come back to prominence over years of almost losing a date entirely, having the Southern 500 being moved from its traditional date to now having, again, 2 dates. And it really revolves around the promotion and the putting in of effect of a throwback race. We see it with NASCAR. We see it. NFL has a throwback week. And teams have gone beyond the throwback week and they do it at other times. The MLB, the NBA. Everybody has a dedicated throwback week, and here is the NHRA slow to the process again. Let's step it up. I declare NHRA, the New England Nationals, is your throwback race. Let's do it.
I agree. It would be awesome. I saw in the comments there, some of those back in the 70s, like body styles and decals. I think that stuff would be absolutely awesome. get people in shirts and uniforms that are throwback, that would be so awesome.
It would be. I agree. I think they need to work on that. They need to use that event, and I think it would work. I think it would work well to, and I don't, everybody likes to bring up marketing partners and, oh, our logo is going to look different. No, I think the partners that lean into it, they're the ones that get extra exposure, and they're the ones that people recognize and remember. I'm of such a fan that if you are a brand and the NASCAR Cup throwback race rolls around and you don't participate in it, I don't want to buy your product.
Yeah, I don't know.
It has the reverse effect.
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking. Like that is the time you need to be participating.
Yes, I completely agree. Well, we move on from the Northeast and we dip into the Southeast, into the Great Smoky Mountains, Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol Dragway. And this year it was the Super Grip Thunder Valley Nationals. Would certainly be glad to see them. And it does look that they are going to be the title sponsor for the 24th annual NHRA Thunder Valley Nationals at Bristol. This is a bucket list track, Dugenais. Such a great venue to experience NHRA drag racing.
Yeah, most definitely. This is definitely a track you want to go to. It is hard to describe. The tower itself is just breathtaking in itself. The way that the stands on the reserve side are just on that mountainside like that, the tunnels that go across to the other side, the layout of the pits is pretty awesome. And the fact that, well, at least where we parked, you're coming off of the hill down into the valley, which is the racetrack. Pretty cool stuff there. And it's definitely one that you most definitely have to go to.
Yes, you've got to go to this event. Also, concerning the NHRA itself, I like Bristol because, if I may say and compare, I think it's like our Darlington. Darlington, in the NASCAR Cup world, the track too tough to tame because you're racing right up there. The racing groove is right up against the wall. You might get that Darlington stripe. The shape is egg-shaped. 1 and 2 is different than 3 and 4. There's a hard pit road to get off of the banking and onto the flat and into it, and it's very challenging for the drivers. Well, I want professional drivers to have a challenge. I don't want them to have an easy Sunday cruise. And Bristol presents a challenge to driver and tuner because of the bumps that it does have. Now, that's not to say I don't want it to be safe. If there is truly a safety issue, let's work on it. But let's work on it, but yet keep that character to that track where in the heat and with the bumps, you've got tuners wringing their hands, just like, how are we going to get down Broadway here in Bristol and turn on a wind light? I like it like that.
I do too. This back-to-back coming in here. And you can't, come on guys, y'all can't have a smooth track everywhere. Like you have to earn your money sometime. Okay. So character is always good. This is a great racetrack, and coming out of this race, they go into another week off.
and I'm sure they want it.
Yes, this is actually the end of the second quarter as well of the regular season.
Into the second quarter of the regular season, and I'm sure they want it after. Well, you've really dotted the country in many different. No West, but you're in the Midwest, you're in the Northeast, and you're in the Southeast. You're covering a lot of territory.
Yes.
In NHRA drag racing with this schedule. They pick back up in what many would still consider the Southeast on the Atlantic coast, just south of Richmond. They're in Dinwiddie. The Virginia Nationals, they're saying the 5th annual Virginia Nationals there at Virginia Motorsports Park. And from what I can tell, we can expect this to be, again, a 2-day professional racer Mission Food Series national event.
Yeah, I like this. This is something I think we can do in a lot of other places, or you can do it by occasionally adding a track like a Rockingham, or name your cozy track and have it be a 2-day event, something that's just different on the schedule that you can just kind of toss in as I wouldn't say it's a special race, but it's kind of one of these things that kind of spice up the schedule a little bit. But I do like the 2 days. I'm sure the fans love the 2 days, and hopefully this time around it will not be a scorcher.
I agree. I hope that is not the case. And that's something, look, it's hard to predict. You can look at models, you can look at history. Yeah. That area of the country, weather is challenging. I have been to that facility many times for PDRA racing, and that happens most of the time there in early spring. It happens as their last event in fall, and we get hit with rain, it seems like every time anyway.
Yeah.
And I have seen weather issues for NHRA national events, and it has been warm. It has been cool. That whole weekend, that weekend where it was a scorcher at Virginia Motorsports Park, it was a scorcher at Virginia Motorsports Park. It was a scorcher at Union Dragway for Southeast Gasser Association. It was a scorcher for us at Nitro Chaos at Edgewater Motorsports Park. It was a scorcher everywhere.
Everywhere.
And you're thinking, man, I'm in Ohio. It shouldn't be this hot, but it is. Hey, I'm in Virginia. It shouldn't be, but it happens.
It does.
And it's just very hard to predict. Maybe go ahead and move it to where more of it is in the evening and it's a night race scenario. But you might work into a situation, it being the Southeast, it being on the Atlantic coast and near it, that, well, traditionally in the South, we have what? Afternoon, evening thunderstorms that roll through because it was so hot and humid in the day. Indeed. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. The best thing you can do is, as a fan, you got to be prepared. I personally believe there needs to be an intense study on the people who can go to a motorsport event and they consume nothing but alcoholic beverages all day and somehow make it through without falling out, and they're in 105-degree weather. These people are superhuman. What is going on?
I don't know how that happens. And it happens a lot too. Like, how are you not dehydrated and laying out, passed out on the ground? The funny thing about this is that this year, 2 weeks or 3 weeks before, at the beginning of June, it was like crispy as if it was your winter, springish falling right there in the Northeast. I mean, there were days that I was at my mom's house and it was chilly. I mean, absolute chilly. And then even on the Saturday, the 1st, it was great. And making my way back down here was great. And then the wheels fell off. And it's very unpredictable at that time of year. It could be cool. It could be fair. It could be rainy. It's just one of those things. You know what I mean? It's a crapshoot.
It is. And, Andrew, we see you all in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Like Josh Bookout, he says, I'm new to this YouTube channel. Hey, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe, but also subscribe to Dujanay's channel, The Not Bland Show. You can find him on YouTube as well. We're just going through the 2025 NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series schedule. And Drag Racing Mayhem was there in Virginia and says, hey, would love to see it be a night race. Don't disagree with you. We need more night racing. And that would be great to see there at VMP. They certainly know how to put on the show. They also have the LED lights that are conducive of putting on a show. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
Andrew mentions that, hey, they need to go to 2 qualifying sessions for the 2-day races. The 3rd session, there was no fans. I don't really count there being an issue with no fans. And as a business and on the business side, I'm not concerned about the optics. I got your money. You've seen what you want to see. You've gone. The competitors at that point is what's more important. They want those 3 qualifying sessions.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be advertised better, and people need to. I don't understand this, Dujanay, and I see this so often. I see it with Funny Car Chaos. I've seen it with PDRA. The PDRA has a schedule that is a bit more in the evening. And then you have Funny Car Chaos, Nitro Chaos. It's slanted more towards the evening. But people are so used to NHRA national event schedules, they show up around noon, and there aren't professional cars, if you will, on track until about 4, 5, 6 o'clock. And people wind up complaining and leaving when you need to look at a schedule. If you don't want to be there all day, get the last 2 sessions in. Be there in the evening. Don't show up for the first one. Plan the day out a little bit. Plan the tailgate. Be a smarter fan.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I don't worry about the third session because I feel like those people hung in there as long as they could, because it was a great crowd. It was a great crowd for 2 sessions for most of the day. It was hot, guys. And the fact they hung in there as long as they did, I was like, give them a round of applause because it was rough. It was rough. And they hung in there as long as they could. So, it wasn't anybody there in that third session, but, man, they took a pounding early. And they were like, we had enough. So I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. And like you said, when it comes down to it, we already got your money. So you can do what you want.
Right. I don't mean to be that callous about it, but that's it. We're running a business here that is a competitive sport. We got your money. You've made a decision. You've left. I'm sure you could have got stamped, left, come back, whatever you want to do for whatever reason. And I see this across the country as well, Duchesne. The fan base just doesn't seem to stay as long as they used to.
No.
I see people, they're not there for first round and they're not there for the final round on Sunday. You can see most of the time everyone's there for round 2 and semifinals.
Yeah.
And Friday is not attended as well as it used to be. I can remember going to the Southern Nationals as a kid, and it was packed on Friday. So things have certainly changed. Overall, I really feel like this 2-day event went well for Virginia, and it went well enough that they're back. And Virginia has been a place with Tommy Franklin is the owner that if it's not working for him, he's telling the NHRA, don't come back. It worked. They're coming back. I'm glad overall we've got that. And I think it opens up the door, like you said, for some other venues to have NHRA national event or higher level events that are promoted by the NHRA with this format.
Indeed. Yeah. I just think it works. This is about, at the end of the day now, it's about what's working and what's going to make the track money. That's why I give them a round of applause. Look, at the end of the day, it's about business, and you got to think about what's going to be profitable for us, because at the end of the day, this is the only way we get to keep these tracks. If they're not making money, they go bye-bye because they realize we're not making any money and we've got to get out of this. And then you got a neighborhood built on a racetrack. So, this is the world we live in now. And the thinking outside of the box is great, but these tracks got to also think about themselves and where they have to put some money in their pocket.
Yes, for sure. A place that understands how to put on a race is the next stop on the schedule. It was our most recent NHRA national event on our 2024 schedule, and that is the Summit Racing Equipment Nationals at Summit Racing Motorsports Park there in Norwalk, Ohio, the house that Bader built. This is such a great facility, but you certainly need to book your motels early.
Yeah, from what I understand, there's not a lot of them. So you definitely need to do that. This is a back-to-back race coming off the Virginia in what we think is going to be the Play NHRA Virginia Nationals again. It'll be back-to-back. So this is like the second race of the third quarter of this regular season. I love this place too. It has a lot of character. Definitely a really, really cool racetrack. I find it very interesting though, how I know this is kind of off topic, but how the tow vehicles have to get down, you have one way to go. And it's not even a big area. It's very narrow. So I found that to be very interesting, but they make it work. They make it work and make it work well.
They do make it work. This track is a great place to experience any drag race, honestly, especially an NHRA national event. That tight area for the vehicles, well, if you're sitting in that section, the Bob Moats grandstand section, if I remember correctly, you're close and you kind of get that up and over feel at the drag strip. There are so many great places to watch the drag race that's occurring there at Summit Motorsports Park. You've also got stands way beyond the scoreboards looking back down the track that you can experience. And hey, $3 for a pound of ice cream, and you've got it's all themed out. It's such a fan-friendly place.
Yeah.
The way I like to describe it is, obviously the Bellagio of drag strips is ZMAX Dragway, but it's sterile. It's commercialized, if you will.
True.
It's the commercial chain 5-star restaurant. But Bill Bader Jr. and Summit Motorsports Park is the 5-star one-off hometown, just down the road 5-star restaurant. The way they have done it and laid it out, they are concerned about your experience as a fan. It is a great place to experience an NHRA national event. Certainly a track deserving of holding an NHRA national event. Love making the trip there. But folks, if you go, book motels early because you're tucked up next to Sandusky, Ohio, which is a resort area, and you are paying a lot for motel rooms. So keep that in mind if you do decide to go to Norwalk, Ohio to experience a NHRA national event. We then go on in the schedule to what is our next upcoming NHRA national event in the 2024 schedule, and so will it be in the 2025 schedule. That is at Pacific's Raceway Park, the Northwest Nationals. This is a gem of a little track, the Epping of the West, if you will. I am so glad that we do have a drag race here in this part of the United States of America. It is such a picturesque facility. You're nestled, it seems like, in a forest, and Mount Rainier is just off in the distance, dominating the skyline.
Man, this is a very nice track. I'm excited about what's going to be happening here in 2024. But yeah, this is a great racetrack. Again, coming in off of a 2-week layoff, they'll come right in here, and this will be the first race of back-to-back races.
First race back-to-back races, not back-to-back-to-back. This is where you would see that start traditionally of the, well, not the start, but you would see this a part of the Western Swing. Well, we no longer have in the track rotation Bandimere Speedway. They're just north of Denver, Colorado. So, or near Denver, Colorado. So the Western Swing really is just 2 tracks, starting with Pacific Raceways. Now, we don't know what we're going to see next year for this event. I think Pacific Raceway is a good candidate for the 2-day type of scenario, but we're going to see how they do this year with a true night session coming up on Friday, which I think is certainly needed. Nothing against Pacific Raceway, but Saturday, Sunday, great crowds when I was there last year. Friday, it may be one of the worst Friday crowds I've ever seen at an NHRA national event. I don't know why. I think mainly because you had one session. That session was not even in the evening. It was wrapping up, if I remember correctly, about 5, 6 o'clock. Yeah. And you just did not get the pull. People were not off work, things of that nature. But we're going to have a true nighttime session, the way it's being advertised. First time ever, Pacific Raceway Park. And I think that's going to be a big draw. And I hope that it is. And I hope that it is successful.
Yeah, this is something you don't get very often unless the stars align and you have a few mishaps and maybe you have a slight weather incident or something like that, and things get pushed back. But we don't really ever get the true night session. And yeah, I hope and I agree with you that this would be a great spot to make it a 2-day race for the pros. Probably would be better for the racetrack, more profitable for the racetrack. And, no reason to have a day where no one's going to show up. But like you said, with this being a night session here, everybody loves to see that head of fire. So it's a whole nother ball game when you get a chance to see that at night. So that may be the draw. And if that works, then maybe you stick with that.
I agree. What I like is what we have seen this year that I would have liked to have seen more, and we may later see more of it in the 2025 schedule. I feel like 2024, the schedule has been a bit of a shedding water schedule. We actually had the first 2-day national event for the Mission Food Series. Granted, it was a bigger national event. When we say 2-day national event, we're not saying that it is just a 2-day national event. No, there was drag racing happening leading up to Saturday and Sunday of the sportsman ranks. So don't think that it wasn't more days or that it was just a 2-day event. No, there was. You just weren't interested in those classes.
Yeah.
Drag racing fan. Now, this schedule 2025 right now, as I said at the start of the show, I feel like it's safe, even borderline boring. We're not seeing them step out to any new venue. We're not seeing them really shake things up where these events are placed. It seems very similar to 2024, which has been a good schedule. I think we're learning a lot, and I know that's being implemented in the 2025, but I would have liked to have seen them step out a little bit more. And we're going to talk about that once we wrap things up with the schedule. The next race on the mini Western Swing, the 2-race Western Swing, is the Denso Sonoma Nationals out there at the drag strip that is north of San Francisco. I was out there. I didn't go to the race, but I drove by Dugenais when I had an opportunity, and it's shocking that, man, it is smack dab in the middle of wine country, and you're not far from San Francisco. I mean, you on the highway, you come across this Bay Area, and you can see San Francisco not too far from the track. Interesting venue. And by the way, that tower you're looking at is gone now. They're going to be calling the races from the NASCAR press box, if you will, a part of the road course. It's going to be an interesting venue, and I'm curious to see the people who've been there often what they say about it.
Yeah, that's going to be a change. It might be a good change. I don't know the layout of the track as well, but it is one of the cool ones that's kind of tucked into a road course. So I like it. I didn't realize it was that close to San Francisco either. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I love it. I wish we had more other than just these two, but Sonoma has always been a great racetrack. And, sometimes you see some really good racing out there, and sometimes you get to see some really good ETs put on the board too.
For sure. That place is quick and fast depending on the conditions, and they tend to get good conditions there at that track. It can certainly hold it. And I don't know, I like the motif and the way they're able to play off wine country and some of the sophistication of nitro rolling in with the NHRA there at Sonoma. It is certainly a great venue, and it's in California, and that's a market we need to be in. It's a market that we need to hold on tight to. It does seem to be a bit more supported than Pomona right now. Don't understand why. I mean, you've got so many people right around Pomona. And again, it's not far from San Francisco. It's not far from Oakland. You're definitely getting the support that way, but it is certainly a national event that does get the support, maybe even showcasing that one national event for Pomona should be a reality. We can talk about that a little later, though, as well. Toward the end of the schedule, rolling right along before the big one is Brainerd International Raceway up there in Brainerd, Minnesota for the Lucas Oil Nationals. And this facility, I was able to visit it Monday for the Monday Nationals after the national event last year. This, Dugenet, they talk about the zoo. Like, I think people go here sometimes now at this point, not just for Brainerd and drag racing, but they go to experience the zoo. And I have not got to experience the zoo yet. But I rolled in on Monday at about 10, 11 o'clock, testing. No, maybe more like 9, because tracks usually go hot around 9, and they were all lined up. So I rolled right in as testing's about to get underway. Big test right before Indy happens at Brainerd on Monday. I have never seen such a long line of campers and RVs leaving a facility in my life.
That's old school.
That place, the zoo, it must be real.
Yeah, it must be really a zoo out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes, you get more there than just a drag race. You get the zoo as well. It's the 43rd annual Lucas Oil NHRA Nationals. Great. The NHRA drag racing is going that far north. I wouldn't mind them going a little further north. Having a national event in Canada again. That would be cool to see.
I agree.
Well,
fourth quarter.
What?
It's a short fourth quarter. Only 2 races in the fourth.
Only 2 races. Interesting.
Just like this year, only 2 races in the fourth.
And then we come to the end of the regular season.
Yep.
And the end of the regular season in NHRA drag racing is the granddaddy of them all. The U.S. Nationals.
Do you think that the U.S. Nationals still holds the same mystique?
I believe it does. I think it does for those who have been following drag racing for many, many years. I do think the NHRA might want to tweak some of its marketing around the U.S. Nationals. And this is what I mean. You know, this year with what Wes Buck, Drag Illustrated, Pro, Flow Racing did with the Pro Star Shootout, the way in which they marketed that, it's almost as if it was marketed as the richest drag race ever for professional drag racers. And I have to disagree with that. That wasn't the case. When you look at the richest drag race in the world, it's actually the U.S. Nationals. You're looking at well over it's 1 point something payout to all the classes that are there. And that's the critical statement. You've got to remember, when we say the biggest drag race in the world, that is not hyperbole. That is not an exaggeration. That is truth. That is a factual statement. There is no larger drag race in the known universe. It is the U.S. Nationals.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's I thought last year you could really feel it from the drivers, just as much as we felt the change into the playoffs. And I think because it's competition, the competition that's there also helps out as well. And we have another great situation with that. And if 30%, as Brian Lowe said, of some of these people who plan on coming out in top fuel do that next year, the bump spot. It's going to be some cars going after a bump spot.
Right.
It could be a spectacle in itself just on that.
Yeah, knockout qualifying is a reality at Indy. We're going to experience that, and it's only going to continue to ramp up with the competition that we currently have and will have as projected in the NHRA. so many things happening for that facility. It was announced earlier this week or last week about well, let me say this, Duchesne. It has been known, if you've been following Between the Slicks and other sources, that this remodeling of Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park has been a part of the plans for a while now. We're talking about at least 4 years that it's been known. We're just starting to see action of it. And it's not just the tower. Yes, they're going to redo bathrooms. They're going to redo suites. They're going to add this and add that. It's going to become a better facility. They're even going to swap the pro pit side to the sportsman side, the sportsman side to the pro side as it is now. So a lot of changes are coming to that facility. And I really feel like that the world's biggest drag race, it needs to be one of the nicest facilities on the tour. And it needs to be, because so many people do give the U.S. Nationals credence. I will see people in that media room in Indy that I don't see anywhere else.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for that reason, you need a nice tower. You need a nice media room. And look, I know, hey, please excuse our mess. We're making the place better. That's going to be the signs out this year. I get it. And we're working on it. But I think this is a move in the right direction to make Indy a premier facility as it should be.
Yeah. I remember coming up, talking to my uncle about Indy, and he said, it's the biggest race, but it just doesn't look its part like it should be. It doesn't look like it's the biggest thing that the NHRA does all year. And it's great that it's going to that, because I feel like when you look at a track like Gainesville, one of the originals of the national events, it looks and feels that way. They have made improvements over years, and the facility looks the way like a gym, and this one should be the one that shines above them all. So I'm really excited about the changes that are coming there.
I agree. Rolling into now the playoffs races for the NHRA on the 2025 schedule. We begin, as it has for many years now, at Reading, Pennsylvania for the, let's see. Right now, it's just listed on the NHRA website as the 40th annual NHRA Nationals at Reading. So maybe Pep Boys will come back on.
Maybe.
And they will support that event. That would be great to see. Nonetheless, the 40th annual NHRA Nationals at Reading, Pennsylvania.
This is the beginning of the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen, and this is also the beginning of 4 straight back-to-back races. There will be no days off, no weeks off, starting at the U.S. Nationals. This is one of my favorite tracks, was one of my favorite tracks growing up as a kid. Even I like Reading more than I like Englishtown, and Englishtown has a spot for me as well, but I love this facility. And the way that and what they've done with this facility is absolutely spectacular. And it's a race that you definitely should be going to.
To race with twists and turns oftentimes produces great speeds and ETs. Yes. And the twists and turns, like I think back last year, you have Doug Coletta pop the tire, they switch chassis, boom, goes on to a championship run with everything they have learned. This race seems like it can make or break your whole entire season rolling into the countdown at the playoff scenario. Shout out to the Koretskis. They have done such a great job with the facility and continuing to bring it forward. I have seen it pre-Koretsky and post-Koretsky, and you can definitely tell a difference. I'm glad that this historic venue and facility still holds NHRA national events. It is also one of those places that gives credence to, if you can hold an NHRA national event here, you can do it in many other places as well. You want to talk about an ingress and egress nightmare? It is Maple Grove Raceway.
Yeah, that hasn't changed at all. It is a one way in, one way out type of deal. And it's not big either.
It is like you can choose a lot of different ways to come in.
Right.
But you're going to hit it eventually, and you're not going nowhere.
Nowhere.
Like every time Alan Reinhart has been, that guy, and he's at the tower, he's like, yeah, you see those people stuck in the line to get in here? You're smarter than them. Those of you that are in the stands, you have got to get there early.
Yep.
Please make sure you do that. But it is a place to experience a drag race. You definitely want to do it. So now, Dujanay, you're saying that from Indy to Reading to the Carolina Nationals is back to back to back?
Yes.
That's the next race. The Carolina Nationals, the fall edition of drag racing at ZMAX Dragway, just 2 wide, not a 4 wide national event. And let's have this discussion. I think with the investment that has been made, ZMAX does deserve 2 days. But I would like to see the events flipped. I would like to see the 2 wide edition in the spring. And I would like to see the chaos of 4 wide racing smack dab in the playoff. Like the story, we might not be able to show everything on air. That might happen at the top end.
You got that right. That would create a really big moment in playoffs with that 4 wide. There's so much drama. The fact that you definitely got to get out of the first round. And then you talk about close losses in said cases. Dude, the guy in the truck is going to have to hit that beep, 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 beep a couple times.
I do not mind there being a wild card race in the playoffs, if you will. As Drag Racing Mayhem chimes in, you look at NASCAR Cup, they have a plate race. Like, you don't know who's going to win. You don't know who is going to lose out completely in that type of scenario. I'm fine. The 4 wide national events being one at least in the playoff scenario, it represents another part of the season that you also have elsewhere and have it in the playoffs. I also look at it this way. Your good weather games aren't playoff games when you look at the NFL.
Right.
When you have playoff games in the NFL, if you're Lambeau, the Packers, you love it because that's home and you're getting that nasty weather and you're used to it. And that Southern team's coming in. They're no longer in the heat and they're like, oh, we're just freezing up here. And you got that advantage. Why not? We see it in other sports. Hey, drivers, team owners, crew chiefs, you're professionals. Act like it no matter what the race is. And let's have a 4 wide in the playoffs. Let's suck it up and do it.
I agree. The drama and talking about creating hype for a playoff, that would definitely do it. And talk about the level of nerves for crew chiefs, drivers alike. Man, it would elevate things big time. And I agree. Let's make that happen. Let's shake it up a little bit.
Why not? Let's shake it up. And it's those type of elements, as I've alluded to, that I feel like this schedule is safe and it is a bit on the boring side. There's nothing wrong with this schedule, but I would have desired to see a bit more shakeup. So let me set this up again, Dujanay, and see if I understood you correctly. From Indy to Reading to Charlotte to St. Louis is back to back to back to back?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
That's a gauntlet. That's a gauntlet.
We're gonna need medical caravans.
Yes.
Traveling with the teams.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. They wasn't playing. And after that, you get a week off.
Dave W. I know Dave W. YouTube channel Dave W. If you're watching, you can check out his YouTube channel.
Yeah,
a lot of great NHRA classic content. When's the last time there was a 4 week in a row scenario in NHRA drag racing? That is wild.
Because you don't see it very often. You'll get a back-to-back race, but to go 4 back, that doesn't happen too often. I don't even think it's happening this year. Let me look at the schedule here while we're
Indy, Reading, Charlotte, St. Louis.
Yeah, it is happening this year too. Indy, Reading, Charlotte, St. Louis is your 4 back-to-back, and a week off in between there before you go to Texas.
Well, I know
they're doing that this year too.
The Monday Morning Racer needs to be diving into the logistical nightmare that's about to happen because you're at Indy, you're right in the backyard of all those shops. Then you ship out to Reading, Pennsylvania, but you need to go south. You don't need to go back over. You need to go south to Charlotte. But on the way to St. Louis, you can pick it back up. For sure, go through Indy and pick up what you need, but that is going to be wild. And yes, folks, after Charlotte, it is the NHRA Midwest Nationals at Worldwide Technology Raceway, which, by the way, Worldwide Technology Raceway also extended their naming rights contract with the facility formerly known as Gateway.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Isn't this the track that the tornado turned over the stands?
Yes, that did happen earlier this year.
So I'm sure they were able to get those back up and going before the event here. But I love this track. This track's pretty awesome as well. A lot of crazy stuff can happen here ET-wise as well. Action's always great, and they always have a great track. And the NHRA Safety Safari does an excellent job, but this facility is probably one of the better, surfaces on the tour.
Some great speeds, great ETs, also wild drag races occur at this place. The craziest drag race I have ever been a part of was at that facility during the COVID year. It was a wild event. You had Leah's chassis break apart. You had Tony Schumacher have panels come off the car, and then the next round the supercharger pops on the burnout, and they're refueling Doug Coletta on the starting line. You had Alexis with a major boomer that just completely disintegrated the body from beyond nose cone back, and you had 2 top dragster wrecks. If I remember correctly, you had a pro stock flip. I think it was Kenny Delco that had this incident there. And the pro mod guys, the pro stock Kenny Delco, the pro stock guys, the pro mod guys, factory stock, they pulled out. They said, we can't run this track with these temperatures and these winds. It was a wild event, the wildest drag race I have ever been to.
Yeah, anything can happen there, that's for sure, especially with weather.
So when we look at the remaining schedule, 3 more races. And when we roll into this event really separates the teams that can win it from the teams who are just completely out of it. You can turn your countdown around, or you can lose it all at the Stampede of Speed, the Texas Fall Nationals at the Texas Motorplex.
Well, as folks know, I like to say on my show, you better harvest your nuts here. If you don't, it's night for you. This is the deciding race of how you can finish your season. You either got a shot at the championship in Pomona, or it's night if you don't perform well here.
You have to perform here. I think back last year, one moment that stands in my mind is Alex Laughlin taking Ron Capps out round one and effectively taking Ron Capps out of the championship conversation completely.
Yeah. This is, you got time to prepare. You get a week off in between, both races, the Northwest, Midwest Nationals there. Then after this race, you got 2 weeks off, and that you got to come out of this week rolling here in Texas, and we know how they do it there, really, really big. So you got to show up and perform, or it could really be a dagger in your season, and not in a good way.
Yeah, depending on the weather, that track can certainly hold, quickest and fastest fields ever type of scenario going into race day. And you also see the weather change from day to day there. Have experienced that. You've had great weather going into eliminations, and elimination day, you have some rain, it gets pushed back, and you have a scenario that is completely different from what you had when you rolled in to that facility. Also, got to give the shout out to the Texas Motorplex, the team there. They make it a big event. It is more than just the NHRA national event. The Stampede of Speed, by the way, you can get your tickets. They're on sale even now. But when you're talking about country music festival, you're talking about food festival, you're talking about other drag racing leading up to the NHRA national event and the NHRA national event itself. It is something I think every drag racing fan needs to experience. If you got the camper, if you got the RV, if you got the time, get down there and just enjoy the whole Stampede of Speed. It is worth it. Love what they're doing there. And it is such an important race because it will make or it will break. It really separates the contenders from the pretenders going into the next race. But I want to say this. Remember last year, and I haven't mentioned anything about this, and I don't want to stay on it too long because we're talking about NHRA Mission Foods Series, but this race decided the world champions in the Lucas Oil division for Top Alcohol Funny Car and Top Alcohol Dragster. So this race can be very, very important in other championship races. And we also have had other champions crowned in other series as well. This is a very important race on the calendar.
Indeed. You have to be prepared for sure.
Now, second to last, the penultimate race of the 2025 NHRA Mission Food Series, the Nevada Nationals 2-wide edition there at the Strip at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Yep, they come into this 2 weeks off. They come in here. I don't know. I guess it's one of those things. I know. I think you could give an event somewhere else, but at the same time, it's kind of hard because the history here with this event here close to the end of the season. But no doubt, this is one of the great tracks on the circuit, and we see a lot of cool stuff at this time of year. We're getting into October, things get a little bit cooler, and the tuners find that, harness it, and make a big-time show out of it.
Yes, and look, we're all hoping we go into this race, and when we leave it, we go to the last race of the 20-race 2025 NHRA Mission Food schedule, and that no champion has been decided.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're hoping for that.
You hope so.
And we have been getting that in many ways, except for like the anomaly of like Gage Herrera and also Erica Enders last year just basically had to qualify, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Nonetheless, we're hoping that we get that scenario as we have been getting so often in Top Fuel and Funny Car, where it comes down to calculating qualifying points, and it changes even who goes in round one, who was leading the points after qualifying from getting onto the property. We are hoping we're seeing those battles take place, champions crowned at the In-N-Out Burger NHRA Finals at In-N-Out Burger Pomona Drag Strip. And Dujanay, if I may say, when you have said that, In-N-Out Burger NHRA finals at In-N-Out Burger Pomona drag strip for just one day in your lead in and lead outs of your promotions covering the sport. You can't even chew at In-N-Out Burger.
Exactly.
But I'm so glad we've got In-N-Out Burger a part of NHRA drag racing once again, and in the role that they are in sponsoring the finals at Pomona in Southern California to close out the year.
Yeah. Only thing I don't like about it is I think you need to go from Vegas right into the finals. No week off. They get a week off. No week off. It's playoffs. Super Bowl is next after Vegas. Go right into it. No week off. Let's go. Get prepared. Bring your extra engines, blowers, whatever you got. You go right from Vegas right in. That's the way I would do it. That's how you shake it up. I think it adds a little bit to it. Having guys to be off, having time to get prepared. Nah, man, you're supposed to be prepared. You stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Let's just cut the week out and just go right on in here wide open and finish it off.
I like that. Again, here is the overview of the 2025 national event schedule for the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. Now, at the top of the show, we gave a brief statement on our thoughts on the schedule. Again, I think it is a good schedule. I believe it is a safe schedule, even borderline boring. We're going to take the time now and open it up, especially to you in the comments section. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking and sharing. Thank you for watching. But what would you like to see in a NHRA national event schedule? Dujane, we've had this conversation before. I've shared many times. One, I would like to see standalone door slammer events where there's not nitro on the premises, and you open up venues such as a South Georgia Motorsports Park, a Rockingham Dragway, and other such facilities that have, if you will, a door slammer centric fan base that I believe would certainly turn out for Pro Stock, Pro Mod, Factory X, Factory Stop Showdown, Super Stock, Super Gas, Top Gas, and well, not Top Gas, but Top Sportsman, so on, of those type of classes and cars running where you don't see a dragster at all.
Right. Yeah, I'm okay with that. And I also am a fan of let's redefine a national event and let the national event stars be the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series of Top Alcohol Dragster and Top Alcohol Funny Car, and let them be the show of the national event. And then you can add everything in behind it. No nitro. Those two are to be the leads and the show. Look, I've said this time and time again. If you want those classes to be more paid attention to, you have to hold them up with reverence. I mean, Julie Natus is a champion, and yet she feels like it doesn't matter. That shouldn't happen. Because you know what? Some people don't want to go to nitro at all. They're okay with being right there. And if you want those individuals we've got some history in that class of winners and champions, that's how you do it. You have to redefine what a national event is, and they have to at some point be the lead of a show. And I think that would help out, because now you get to go walk around the pits and you get to know who they are. And they're not tucked off all the way in the back where half people don't go. So that's my thought.
I like that. A Drag Racing Mayhem is sharing a sentiment that I have expressed many times. I honestly think they should change the name of not this one, but change the name of the national event. Just call it the Mission Foods Series events. I'm fine with that. I have many times advocated and do advocate they really need to change the national event model overall.
Agreed.
There's many times I think we got too many classes at national events.
Yeah.
But this is the one that I was thinking of and didn't click on right away. Vegas needs to be the finals. You could celebrate the championship at SEMA, allow for more promotion opportunities. I have been advocating for this for a while, and I think it does fit. Nothing to take away from Pomona. It is one of our most historic tracks, period, in drag racing. Not just NHRA drag racing, but in drag racing. But it historically has not always held the finals.
Right.
So there is, even amongst traditionalists, some wiggle room here. And you've got this great facility at Vegas, and it's Vegas, and you've got the SEMA show right there. Why not crown champions there? Get show, like, look at what the flings do, the big money bracket race, like the $1 million bracket race. Man, whoever wins that $1 million race, they don't get $1 million, they split it usually and all that, but it's still life-changing money by the end of it. But those bracket racers, whoever wins that night, like, they get, the showgirls come out, they get a big trophy, they get a limousine ride, they get a suite in one of the fancy towers at a casino. Like, that's what needs to happen for our champions. Do it in Vegas, roll them over to SEMA the very next day after Sunday on Monday, and they are given their due as NHRA champions before the automotive world.
Yeah, I like that because, you know, they have the little, you know, dinner and all of that there at the end of the season for the racers and all. So yeah, let's do that first, and then you guys can get together as, you know, everybody's not friends out there, but, you know, friends and compadres and, you know, fellow racers, and celebrate each other on that night there.
Dave W., he has got a great point. I agree with this as well. He says, I want the 4-wide race in the countdown. We've discussed that. We would like to see that. I want 2 midsummer races to be run Friday and Saturday night. He's speaking here. Hello, Norwalk and Bristol. I think those would be great Friday and Saturday type scenarios. And then he also says something I have to agree with. I want the season to run from March to October. I don't think we need to be dipping into November. Just keep it to October.
Yep, I agree. That's why I said no need to have weeks off. Again, if there's wiggle room for that. When you look at the playoff schedule, and you got 2 weeks off in between Dallas and Vegas, just back everything up, and you get 3 races in October and call it a day.
Right. Why not?
And I think there's a huge gap. No, there's not a huge gap. There's other gaps where they have 2 weeks off that you can kind of bump things back, maybe take out 1 of the 2 weeks and leave it 1 week. You can figure it out. But especially at the end of the season, with those races being fairly close to each other, that 2 week off, you don't need it. Just cut it out.
Right. Or if you've got a situation where there is a gap and we can still work room in, you could have like that door slammer only national event, or work in some NHRA promoted match racing at regionals across the country, things of that nature to bolster those type of events. There's some other things that we can work out, but I definitely think if we could end in Las Vegas on that weekend that they already have, it's October, I think that just works better. By the time you're getting into November, we're talking football is in full force. We're talking NASCAR with its playoff is in full force. Just do Vegas, the setting, the connection to SEMA, and celebrate it there.
Yeah, that would make champions. That would be huge. I mean, talk about putting your champions on a pedestal. You know what I mean?
What if, Daytona, they take the winner, and the winner's car goes into Daytona USA, or at least it used to. And what if you roll into the champions cars and bike, and they're there on display at SEMA, and with all their grit and the dirt and the oil still coming out of them, and like you got champion on that at SEMA. That'd be cool. I think that'd be a great honor.
Yes, I agree. And the amount of people that roll through there, you might even get some extra people to come out and support that. So yeah, I think that would be a real showcase of your champions, and would really, I think, elevate the sport in that regard, because I think you'll have a great turnout for the final there. Sometimes it's hit or miss out there in Pomona for the final.
I agree. And you look at Sonoma. Sonoma seems to be a very well-attended event. It's one weekend.
Yeah.
Then you look at Pomona, and Pomona has had a good crowd. Don't get me wrong, but the West End still has not been opened up. But they've had good crowds.
Yeah.
But you still have that West Side Grandstand that could hold more people. So what if it was just one event there?
Yeah, Winter Nationals, and that's it. That gives you an option to be able to, that's where you have an open date that you can choose to go to a Rockingham, you can go to another facility, and it's just kind of one of those things where you just kind of, there's a date where you just rotate.
Right. And if you're like, okay, what do we do? Well, one, people are already trying to work on getting drag racing back at Pomona more often than just 1-2 times a year. That definitely needs to happen. I think what could occur, though, is you have a situation like we know the Nitro Revival might be needing to look for a new home. Maybe it's the fairgrounds, the Fairplex, and Pomona Drag Strip, and you have a event where it's nostalgia oriented, where you've got a lot of support with those that, well, run up at Bakersfield so often. They're in Southern California, and you have another event there that is a regional, and it also has a nostalgic flair to it also for the Heritage Series.
Yeah, that would be very good. And I think it would be a better use of that date and that facility. You would probably have a pretty solid turnout, cars to fans.
I think so. I also would like to see the NHRA, the 20 event national schedule is something that teams have been saying, hey, get us here. I think there is certainly some wiggle room. Maybe you do get to 22 tops. But the reason I say just 2 more, that those 2 dates are places that rotate. We don't go there for 25 years.
Exactly. Yep.
I don't think there is anything wrong with going to a track for 2, 3, 4 years and then taking time off and going to a different track.
Yep.
We do see events be successful, even if they're not in a row. Virginia Motorsports Park, it can be successful, but they're not there all the time.
Right.
Route 66 Raceway, it can happen. I understand the security that there may be, the NHRA having a contract, the track promoter and owner having a contract that runs for multiple years. But I think it would be beneficial if you see South Georgia Motorsports Park for 2-3 years have a national event, and they've had it. You have Tulsa hold a national event for 2-3 years, and they've had it. You see, and it moves around a bit into different markets. And you might find a new permanent, if you will, home. But nonetheless, have something that brings the show into different markets at different times over time.
Yeah. I mean, well, think about what it did for the NBA when, they had, I think was it Seattle? I can't remember which team that had to play in Oklahoma City. But who knew? Who knew that area was starving for a basketball team? And now they have one. You can, obviously there was reasons that people hate, the reason why Baltimore pulled out, but, they were able to bring that team back. The Browns were able to come back. You've seen expansion teams, which they should have just kept the Oilers, but Houston come back. other sports have done it. And again, we see other sports like the NFL going to other places, Brazil for crying out loud now. So yeah, it would be nice to have 2 dates that maybe you can go back to Canada, wherever that may be. I don't know how many tracks they have there, but maybe you can go to Toronto, or maybe you can go somewhere on the west side of Canada. That would be nice. I'm sure they would have one heck of a turnout, especially as long as it's been. And then these other small tracks that are wanting a national event that could be set up just like, Epping and other small tracks where it's just Nitro and Pro Stop.
Yep. No Problem Raceway there in Belrose, Louisiana with Nelson Hoyas.
Yep. And they know how to handle that as well. So that would be a number one first on my list where I would go, because they know exactly how to handle all of that, that influx of people, the pitting area, all of that. They know what they're doing. That would be the first one on the list. And it's a great track.
And, I think of Flying H. I think Flying H could be on this list as well. Drag Racing Mayhem, he says, I feel half these events are successful because they are built off tradition. So I don't see how one race becomes a huge deal. Well, I'm not advocating for just one race. I don't think anybody would sign a one-race contract. I don't think that would really work. I think you're at least looking at a 2-year contract for 2 races. But if you want to argue that, then tradition isn't helping Pomona entirely, is it, or is it not? So tradition isn't everything. I think it is more about marketing. And I think we already see that many of these events, they seem to do well because it's one event. I think you see this in other forms of motorsports as well. For example, NASCAR Cup, the races where there's one race, people really seem to turn out and they support it. But if there's 2, then there doesn't seem to be quite the support, because you're splitting that market over 2 times.
Yep, I agree with that. And I do think it's, especially in places that it's never been, it creates a hunger for it. And people will turn out for something new to try it once.
Right, the inaugural. They'll turn out for that. It's no different than this is the last. They're going to turn out for that.
So if you can put 2 together in let's just say Rockingham, you can put 2 together there. They hadn't had a national event in who knows how long. South Georgia Motorsports Park. I know there's a lot of talk about, well, it's close to Gainesville, whatever. But I can tell you right now, you're going to have people from Alabama, all over Georgia, and even south to come to this event. To pack it out, because it doesn't happen very often, and some people may not be able to go and may not be able to go to Gainesville that live, Montgomery, Alabama, and those areas, but might be willing to come over here, Columbus, Georgia, things like that. So I think you have to test those things, because you just never know where you might strike and hit a home run. And again, they don't have to be 3-day events for the pro classes. They can be 2-day events for the pro classes.
Right. Look, again, I think 2024 is a great season of the NHRA stepping forward and trying some different things.
Indeed.
And I'm glad for that. I was hoping we'd get a little bit more of it in 2025, but right now it seems that it is a bit of again, good but safe, borderline boring schedule.
Yeah, I agree. Could do a little bit more, for sure.
Do a little bit more. And you want to talk about markets. So Valdosta to Gainesville is right at 2 hours, hour 15 minutes. You could probably, speed and get there a little quicker. Sure.
Yeah, I get there an hour and a half.
Right. Well, depending on how you go, I mean, you can do Charlotte, North Carolina to Bristol, Tennessee in just a little over 3.
Yeah.
And then also when you had Atlanta Dragway to Charlotte.
Oh, that was a rock's throw.
Okay. So the market argument is not fully there when you look at NHRA event history.
Yeah.
If it's a market issue, then even though it's not apples to apples, because we're talking about Chicago and we're talking Valdosta to Gainesville,
Yeah.
but Chicago is just up the road from Indy.
Right.
And then you got St. Louis, which is not far. You got several tracks that people can go attend in that market and they choose from.
Yep, I agree. I just, you got to start. I think you have to start thinking outside the box. That's how you want to grow the sport too. That's another way. Again, we just talk about sometimes the hand is forced and you got to play a game in a place where you don't necessarily have any type of stick and ball sports, and all of a sudden you find a gym. And sometimes that happens. And
Right.
I think with racing, it's even easier because it's such a common language. Right. And then you throw 12,000 horsepower and nitro, and I mean, who's going to turn that down? Right. If they've never seen it and they have the ability to see it, right, they're probably going.
Right. And look, I believe just as much as a 2-day national event model, this is worth the shot. And I think you got to be wise on where you pick it. Absolutely. Pick it. But nonetheless, if you announce 2025 that No Problem Raceway was going to hold its first ever national event, that place would sell out quickly. Not just because he would have to put more grandstands. There's so much work Nelson would have to do, but they sell out. In essence, they're regional folks.
Yeah.
You're not going to have an unsuccessful national event. The problem you have there is it being a situation of it's too successful for the venue, and it hurts the overall longevity of such an event at such place.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can lose. Like I said, it's all about grabbing people who may not necessarily be in a dead zone, so to speak, to be able to travel where it's like, an 8 to 9 hour plus trip to any drag strip that they decide to go to. So, I don't think you lose at all. And with the show that has been given and that we're getting here as competition becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, you can't lose.
I agree. We're in a great time in NHRA drag racing. Well, folks, there it is, the 2025 national event schedule for the NHRA Mission Food Drag Racing Series. It is a 20-event schedule for 2025 as of right now. Remember, there were TBDs that we lost and gained this year. You never know what they might add. They might work something out. You don't know. Look, that's a digital graphic. It is not set in stone. Something just might change. You never know. Well, Mr. Bland, Dujournay Bland, good to have you on. Tell folks where they can follow you and the Not Bland Show.
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at NotBland21. You can also follow me at the Not Bland Show on YouTube. Go over there, subscribe, and share. Look, we just talked to Buddy Hull. We had our Hulkamania return on Tuesday, and next week we get to have another People's Champ, Sean Langdon.
That's certainly going to be a good one. Dujournay, keep up the good work. Folks, I'm Lee Kraft, a.k.a. the Monday Morning Racer, host here on the Monday Morning Racer platform. You can follow on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, well, X, not Twitter, excuse me, X, Instagram, YouTube, almost all the socials, it seems. I want to say thank you to McKinney Corp. This show is presented by McKinney Corp. Be sure to tune in. We usually try to go live at least once a week with many people throughout the world of drag racing. And recently we just had, again, Krista Baldwin on yesterday, chatted with her. You can see drag racing action on the channel, such as the Holly EFI Factory X class from the Summit Racing Equipment Nationals there in Norwalk, as well as Top Alcohol Funny Car action, and soon to roll out Top Alcohol Dragster as well. You all out there, enjoy drag racing this weekend somewhere. A lot of tracks have got their Night of Fire, Night of Thunder and Fire, Night Under Fire, Night fire, whatever fire happening this weekend or the weekends coming up, go support your local track. You shouldn't just be eyeing an NHRA national event schedule. You also should be eyeing your local track's schedule. Dujane, good to have you on. And folks out there, thank you for watching. Hit the like button, hit the share button. To each and every one of you, God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal. This word now from McKinney Corp, from PRI, if I can find it. It's here somewhere. Who's been going through my commercial list and deleting stuff? Oh, I gotta, maybe me. Maybe. I don't know. Well, we'll go with this one. Oh, there it is. This word. See y'all.
At McKinney Corp, we do far more than just fuel funny cars and top fuel dragsters in the world of drag racing. For example, Jerry Bickle race cars, we provide them with the tanks on those race cars, and with this beautiful Larry's Jeffers race car machine, we in fact manufacture at McKinney Corp the button latch on the door car, and you can find many door cars with that latch. It's a private label that we create for Larry's and others, but you have McKinney Corp producing parts and pieces from tanks to button latches for the door car scene. Let's check out some more McKinney Corp assets and products here at PRI. Ron Capps debuted this beautiful funny car at the U.S. Nationals in 2023, bringing the old school with the new school Dom the Snake Prudhomme tribute car, and he was able to go on and win the U.S. Nationals in 2023 with this great throwback scheme. But McKinney Corp, though did not build this chassis in particular, did build the fuel tanks that Ron Capps runs in his funny car. One of the best fuel tanks in the industry, and beyond in the fuel ranks, you will find our fuel tanks in many other rides, such as even Antron Brown's Top Fueler. We're not done with what McKinney Corp does in drag racing. Let's continue at PRI. It's always cool to see Dale Worsham hit the track, and he hit the track at In-N-Out Burger Pomona Drag Strip in this beautiful CP Carrillo funny car. This very body was mounted at McKinney Corp headquarters in Lafayette, Indiana. In fact, we have a dedicated jig at our facility to mounting funny car bodies. So if it's a new body, old body, we can help you in mounting your funny car body to get funny car racing. Beyond Dale Worsham and Alexis Joria, Tim Wilkerson, Chad Green, we build their chassis, we mount their bodies, we assist them in their funny car operations, and beyond, even into the alcohol ranks. As we like to say at McKinney Corp, they drive the drags. If you need anything for your drag racing operation and beyond, contact McKinney Corp.